Preview.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Viv Talks episode 3. And the topic we're discussing today is mistakes that people make when applying for visa. Let's start with the discussion. Anything
right.
that you guys want to bring up first before we go topic by topic?
Not really. I think we should get into the topics.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Maybe let's pick one to start.
Yeah. Do you think inconsistent information is the biggest one?
It happens a lot. I think like when people change names, it can be inconsistency, some inconsistency in the
I see.
documents.
I
So
see
it's
what you
important
mean.
to have support documents to prove this changing.
Good point.
Or when people are applying for a visa, like the D7 visa, that you were not supposed to work. And then the consulate, when analyzing the documents, see that there are active income coming through the account. Like they are still working, but they plan to stop working when moving to Portugal. So that's why it's important to draft a letter of intent, explaining the situation, just to avoid misunderstanding.
That makes sense. I just thought of one too, because to be able to apply for these visas, you must have an address back where you apply. And some people, what they do is they start out with an address and then later they move during the process and they're at another address, and that could cause some issues, if I'm not mistaken. Yes?
Yeah, it happens.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially if you change to another jurisdiction. So the process will have to start all over again, because the consulate that will analyze and make the final decision won't be the correct authority to do it.
Yeah. So
it's a very common mistake.
What I would say is that sometimes people, they are not completely transparent when they start working with us, for example, and we only find out a very relevant information when we are close to apply for a visa, and that can change the whole scenario. So no matter if people, they do have not, maybe there is not a clean criminal background or things that can harm the process, they need to be transparent from the beginning.
Yeah, not to say that these things will make it so they don't get their visas granted, but it makes the process smoother if you're 100% transparent from the start, right?
Definitely, yeah, because we can work in a strategy from the very beginning, avoiding stress and make sure that the process goes smooth. So it's important that people be very transparent from the very beginning and very open about the circumstances that can delay or harm the process, so we can work around the situation before we get the outcome.
I have a question just to reflect on why we think this happens from like a client's perspective. Why do you think people who are trusting us with the entire visa situation would hesitate when they're talking about certain things, or they withhold information, especially in the start?
I think embarrassment, probably. What do you think?
I think that there's also I can tell that that's how I feel. If I do want something very, very much, let's say I want to move to Portugal. I do want to move to Portugal. I'm not going to be sharing things that can harm my process in my mind, despite the fact it would be best case scenario, you share or everything, so we know. But I know maybe psychologically, if I share something, I feel that, but that may harm the process. I'm not gonna say it.
That's so funny how personality differences. I'm opposite of you, Victor.
Yeah.
If I have a big project, I'm gonna be like, I have to share everything to make sure it's good. So I'm opposite. In my opinion, it can be embarrassment. It can be what Victor said. Sometimes, Miriam, I just think people are not organized, and they're just like, let's get it going. Yeah, I'll talk about this later. So it's a matter, not even like not.
Sometimes they don't give importance.
Yeah, they don't see it as very
serious.
They
or
don't know.
underestimating the process as well. I think that's another big one.
Like a lack of,
especially when you have access to resources on the internet, I think it's easier for people to underestimate what the process looks like locally on ground. So it's different when, you know, you're applying for visas every single day and dealing with different consulates. It makes a huge difference.
I actually have a very specific questions that sometimes, leads will ask me, which is, so at what point, so let's say someone starts the process now and they give us their address in their home country. And then for some reason, they need to move. At what point is it, and so this is for Mateos and Michelle, at what point is it acceptable and at what point it's not acceptable to move your main home once you have started the process?
They can change until they have their appointment, because when we are filling out the application form, it's the opportunity that we have to let the consulate know what is the address. Okay. So they can move one day before the appointment, as long as they have the proof of address and this address is reflected on the application form. But if they are changing to another jurisdiction, they have to change before they book the appointment, because they will book the appointment at a certain location. Okay. So if they are changing to a place that the jurisdiction is another one, so it could be a problem. So that's why, or you move to the same jurisdiction until the day of your appointment, one day before, so you have the documents, or before you book the appointment in case you are relocating to another jurisdiction.
That is so important. And so another question, I'm not going to linger on this too long. It's because these things come up. So for example, I'm an applicant. I can start with you in one place and get my NIF. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, doesn't matter if the address I provide for the NIF is different than the other address I provide for the VFS.
Ultimately, NIF isn't a proof of address. Okay.
It's not, right?
So of course, the consulate can see some inconsistency in the documents, but the NIF is not the document that will be used as a proof of address. So it's not a problem. And changing address is very common. So it won't harm or delay the process.
And when you come to Portugal, you have to change your NIF when you have the permission, your address. And
Okay, let's go on to the next one. What would that be, Miriam?
I think let's start from the very basic. So if somebody was to apply for a visa, and you know, most clients, they do start searching a year before, and they do sort of, you know, think about documentation and all of that months before. But there are also a few who might not understand the importance of, you know, when to book an appointment, exactly how many months before that needs to be done, when do you need to start renting, when those things need to be done, and that you cannot book an appointment too soon, because you're not, like, ultimately it is going to take time for you to compile the documents. It's going to take time for you to find a property. That also depends, obviously, if you're applying for Portugal, you need to find a property. If you're applying for Spain, you don't necessarily need to do that. So what kind of mistakes do we see when we have applications that we need to rush, or do we mostly see clients have been really prepared, or, you know, following a timeline that we give them?
I think you're talking about the timing, right, of stuff.
This is a very good point, Mariam, because normally when people are deciding to move to Portugal, the first thing that they start doing is looking for a house. So housing is their priority. They start looking for accommodation, and normally they fell in love with a property, and then they want so bad this one and want to start as soon as possible, either signing the lease agreement or the property deed. And for me, I think this is a mistake, because first it causes an anxiety, because you already know where you're gonna live, and it's costly because you're gonna start paying rents or mortgage or whatever before knowing exactly when you're gonna move to Portugal. So for me, this is a very common mistake, because people ended up being very frustrated with this situation, like having to pay rents in a place where they are not able to live. Okay. So this is a very common mistake, and I think getting a lease agreement or proof of accommodation, it's a very time sensitive requirements. So make sure that you at least know when you're going to apply before you start doing this.
What I think to add on that, Mateus, is that there are some specific people that they don't really get how complex and how time consuming it is a visa process, meaning they've never gone through the process. For some of them, it's the first time that they are moving, and there is also no cultural differences that make them feel that it's going to be pretty easy. Let me rent this property, then I'll go to the visa, and of course, Portugal will accept my application. So there's this misconception regarding the process, especially for those who are applying for the first time, I guess. And I agree with Mateus. Accommodation is when we start a process with someone who has already gathered documents, it's a nightmare.
I guess in terms of timing also, I always tell people, there are certain documents. Also talking about timing, I was thinking there's something I always tell the leads, which is, and like Victor said, some people are they're excited to move, right? And so they're like, I'm very quick. I'm going to get all these documents. I've already gotten my FBI. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
because these documents are time sensitive. Let our case managers help you. They know the timing. Now you're going to have to redo that. So, can you tell us, please, which documents are time sensitive and people should not get immediately? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Police clearance, FBI, ACRO is time sensitive. The time is 90 days, but it's very common request in the beginning of the process, and it was a mistake. It is mistake, and more document. I think is the policy clearance is the most important document. You have to wait at least 2 months, 3 months before the application.
I guess also travel insurance, right?
The travel insurance because of the start date. The accommodation, it is because imagine you sign a lease agreement in the very beginning of the process, and when it's the time for your application, it has already elapsed 6 months. So your lease agreement won't be a long-term lease agreement anymore. You only have more 6 months. So that's why it's important to wait a little bit before signing the lease agreement, before getting the police certificate and the travel insurance. I think that's all the documents that are time sensitive, right? Of course, you're gonna need to provide some financial documents, but it's just a matter of getting another statement. It's not a big deal if you start gathering the documents before. You're just gonna have to select the most recent ones, but I guess that's it. And if you are moving as an entrepreneur, for example, applying for a D2 visa, establishing a company in Portugal can be considered as well a time-sensitive requirement or document. Having all these documents, the supporting documents to prove that you have set up a company here, it's also something that I would recommend to do 1 month before the application and not in the beginning of the process, because there are some obligations that you're going to have to commit when you have a company here in Portugal. So that's why it's not good to start very early.
That makes complete sense. And what about visa categories? For example, somebody decides to apply for the D7, even though they are completely eligible for the D8. Do you think that creates an issue?
100%. And it happens a lot, right, Rita?
Oh my goodness, this happens all the time. I have so many people who are both eligible for the D7 passive income, D8 digital nomad. And then this is really tricky because if you don't do this carefully, if you don't analyze this situation, it could be reason for a denied visa, okay? And then some people, which is similar to what we were saying before, they don't tell me they're also eligible for a D8, and they're just like, oh, D7, and I have no idea they also have remote work or vice versa. This could cause issues, and I'll let the more expert people talk about it. I mean, what kind of issues?
No, so just so I understood correctly, if they are eligible for both D7 and D8, they need to choose one of them. Can't they?
Yes,
you cannot apply for both.
That could be
that
could cause trouble.
But I mean, there's no preference, right? If there's two visas, you can choose both
There's
No,
there's one
no.
that's better.
Yeah,
Mateus,
I
explain.
would say that if you are working, you shouldn't apply for a D7 visa. If you're able to prove that you can work remotely and that you receive at least 4 times the Portuguese minimum wage monthly, I would say to apply for a digital nomad visa, because when the consulate is reviewing your documents, people will see that you receive active income, that you have active source of income, and this could cause you a problem, because the D7 visa is for people that are not intending to work at all in Portugal, okay? So you're gonna have to rely on your passive income. If the consulate sees that, see that you're going to keep working, it can cause a rejection of your visa.
I don't know if that's clear. It's like this, Victor. If you're eligible for D8 or D7, you should preference D8 in that situation, because they will see from your last filed taxes that you have
Yeah.
work.
And
That
bank
could cause
statement as well.
and that could cause a conflict. That doesn't mean so your initial visa choice is important. After, you could come on a D7 and then later work, sure. But if you come on a D7, you're already working. That's the issue. Like
Mhm.
Portuguese authorities may be like, oh, wait a minute, you're also eligible for a D8. What's going on here? So it's the initial moment there of choice. Do you see what I mean?
But they can like retire earlier. For example, they do have rents in America. They were working, but they just want to move to Portugal to stop working.
This is
So
this is possible.
That's a different situation because
Yeah,
they are
because
not
in this case
coming
we can
And
working.
it's
explain.
Okay.
common. And
Yeah.
it's common.
And then we can explain in the letter of intent that the applicant won't be working when they relocate to Portugal. So in this case, it's possible applying for a D7. But if they intend to keep working, I won't say to apply for a D7. Apply for a digital nomad visa, that it's safer.
Do you want to talk about treating it like a solo project? Visa applications involve lawyers, accountants, landlords, banks. How do we start that conversation?
I think that we can start in saying that there are a lot of information online, and sometimes people feel that they can handle the process alone. Okay, I'm not saying that it's impossible, that you need someone, otherwise your visa won't be granted. It's not the case. There are people that can apply online, that it can apply alone, but don't think that you're gonna handle the process by yourself independently 100% all the time, because yes, you're gonna need to rely on authorities like the tax authority to get your NIF. Then you're gonna have to reach out to banks to open your bank account, and if you have a representative in the country, it's much easier. And then you're gonna need to rely on specialists, like a real estate specialist, to find an accommodation for you. So it's very difficult to handle the process 100% alone. It's a collaboration work. You're gonna need to collaborate eventually with someone, either it's an authority or a real estate agent or a lawyer.
I think it's about having that network that can, bridge those gaps for you. So instead of you talking to 10 people individually who themselves aren't connected and they don't know about your situation, you have one case manager that handles the entire process. They know about your NIF, they know about your bank account, they know about your income, your status, your residential status, where you want to live, everything. And they're in charge of dealing with the entire situation. You're not going to be making 10 calls and explaining the situation to each other. So the network really changes everything about visa application.
Because a consultant, a case manager already have their partners, the people that they can rely on, they know that are trustworthy. So it will make your process much, much easier if you have one person handling the aspects of the relocation process for you.
Absolutely. What about somebody?
Just gonna parenthesis, as you mentioned, Miriam, the people that they underestimate the whole process, and there's so many people that come to us with this scenario. Oh, I started process alone. I would struggle to get my NIF, but now I'm kind of lost. Can you help us? Yeah,
it's actually impossible to get your NIF alone. It's important to know, because you're gonna need a tax representative here in Portugal. So it's, as Marian said, it doesn't make sense to contact 10 or more people to help you with your relocation instead of having someone that will be the main point of contact and will contact these other partners, these other parties to help you gathering the documents and have all the documents that you need for your application.
What if we have a situation, this is completely hypothetical, what if we have somebody who came in and they had a relative or a friend who moved from, let's say, Miami, and they did the process, and then they tell this lead the entire process, the documents are collected, everything, and then they say, oh, you just need to, have these things ready and you can just go and apply at the consulate. But what they don't know is the difference between consulates and between two different states or two different countries, let's say. What kind of mistakes happen when you read about or you look at experiences online and you just gather information from that without taking into account that consulates have different rules for different places as well.
Those information, they are not usually shared online, right? The consulates, the embassies looking for assistance in this regard is always better, as usually people that are experts, they are in touch with the consulates, they know what the documents to ask for, and the rules, they know the rules, they can change. So yeah, just going back to the fact that it's very hard to do the process by yourself. It's possible, but very hard.
We can actually give concrete examples of specific VFS centers or consulates that have different rules. We can actually give examples here. So actually, Miriam, this person could be in big trouble because if they have this friend who told them about their experience in Boston, okay? And they're applying in Miami, they could go to their meeting and be like, wait a minute, but they told me this. Well, not here. Prize. Not a good surprise. So, can you give us some concrete examples of differences? We deal a lot with North American clients. So we have a lot of experience in that field. Not only we deal with those clients, but we have a lot of experience with the differences. Can you tell us some of differences you guys have noticed?
Sure. Like in Australia, for example, you don't need 1 year lease agreement as proof of accommodation. In San Francisco, in other places in the US, you will need. In Pakistan, for example, they ask for 4 months travel insurance. In the US, they ask for 12 months. Okay. And even within the country, they have some differences. Like we had a client that applied in San Francisco recently, and now they are asking for a term of responsibility if you're applying with family members. And this is a document that is not in the checklist and normally is not required in other places. So that's why it's important to have someone that have these concrete cases to share with you, because sometimes, as Victor said, they don't share the information online, and reaching out to them by email or calling sometimes is not easy. So having people that really understand the process every day and know the changes and are always updated makes a huge difference.
We have heard from our clients, our experience during the interview. They told us how it's going and take some notes. Oh, this consulate is different. Also, we always heard about these changes.
Yeah, you're doing this thousands and thousands of times, so you get to know the minute little details and the changes.
Collecting this feedback is very valuable for other clients.
Are sometimes do they make changes that you wouldn't anticipate, or do they ask for documents that we wouldn't anticipate? For example, the example that you gave right now, is that something that you thought would come up or something that was just a surprise?
It's a completely surprise. Suddenly they start asking for a document that it's not listed in their on their website or in the official checklists. So, but normally when it happens, it's not like deal breaker. Okay. we can work around the situation, and normally they let our clients to submit the document later or give a time like 30 minutes to get this document, and they let them go to a notary or whatever, like getting the document during the appointment. So it's not, we never had a case where the visa was denied because of it, or where they simply reject the application on spot, not receiving the documents, because I believe that in these cases are not like essential documents, fundamental documents, are documents that can be provided later. But it's always good to have, because make you more prepared and stress-free experience. It's faster. So that's why it's good to always let your case manager know about the updates and give your feedback, so we can help future clients to have a smoother application. And it's happening a lot, because since we cannot rely on the authorities to get updated information, we have this network here, our clients be the one that let us know whenever something is changing, and then we can let the other clients know, and eventually everybody will be more and more prepared.
I remember, Mateo, while we were speaking, a concrete case, and just to show that Portugal, sometimes they ask for very awkward documents or information. One of them is the social security registration, because it is when usually people will only apply for this document if they are working here in Portugal. And sometimes even if you apply for this number without an employment agreement or a document showing that you have a professional relationship here in Portugal, they just won't allow, they just will deny your application. So people, and there was a time when I was asking for this document for people that just arrived in Portugal, retirees, no intent to work.
Makes no sense, right?
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
And we would have to go after explain.
And
I mean, talking about connections, we lucky enough, we know we work with some people that they are very active and they can go after those documents, but it's so hard to find those good partners.
yeah,
But yeah.
just to be clear, this is called a NIS, the famous NIS number,
Yes.
not the NIF, NIF, but the NISS. Okay.
And this is funny, because if you go to IMA website and search for the documents that you're gonna need if you are the D7 applicant, for example, you will see that they ask for social security number. So you think that it's mandatory, you try to get this document, but actually it's not mandatory. So they are not updating the website at all. So
And
it's
I
always a
had a
surprise.
case, IMA requests the boarding pass.
Yes, it doesn't make
And
sense, because the boarding pass is not a legal proof of
What?
entry in the country, but sometimes
Are
they
you
ask for
serious?
Yeah, in my
completely
opinion,
random.
IMA requests more surprise documents than VFS.
Much more,
Oh, wow.
much more.
Okay.
Yes.
Being a bit controversial, do you think that has something to do with the person who is applying for the visa? I don't know if
Prejudice.
Some prejudice, yes,
yeah,
I think so.
Random.
I
Or
think it's
could be-
related to the person that is applying, the officer. If the officer wants to cause any problems, they can simply ask for more documents. And like to prove accommodation, for example, you actually need, I think, 4 or 5 documents just to prove accommodation. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Like, it's not, you can submit one on another. No, you need a full package of documents just to prove that you have accommodation. And if you have a bad officer that doesn't like you, he can create more requirements, asking for more documents anytime.
I think like tip that for people, when you go to this IMA meeting, smile,
Be
say
kind.
bon dia, no matter what their posture is, smile, say bon dia, be calm and patient. And
Yeah, it's a good advice.
it helps.
Very good. It
helps.
happens a lot.
Right?
And I don't know if that still happens in Mateus, Michelle, but I remember that past, if there was a document missing, that they considered that was a document missing, they would grant you some, I guess, 10 days or so to go after that document. Is this still the case? Will they grant you time to go after, or will they deny right away?
No, it's still the case. Sometimes they book another appointment instead of asking to submit other documents, which I don't think it's a bad idea, because sometimes it's better to have a new appointment and submit everything right away. But they can't reject immediately. Legally, they need to grant you time to submit other documents or to explain your situation better. And after that, after you have this opportunity, then they can reject your application.
Yeah, but you have time to explain. Sometimes by mail, you just send the document by mail and it's fine.
For the last thing, I actually want to include a little story time from execution about the approvals that we had within a couple of days. So we had that case in London where we started the process and we got the approval really quickly. And then the other case where we also received approval, I think it was in Miami within 15 days.
San
So
Francisco.
maybe, or was it San Francisco?
I don't remember, sorry.
I think it was one in Miami as well, because I remember I mentioned it in one of the articles as well. But maybe just like an overview of, how that took you by surprise as well. And if maybe you have any, if you've noticed any changes in the approval times, or if you think certain applications have done better or certain profiles have performed better.
We've been noticing that applications in Miami have been processed faster than the other places, sometimes in 15 days. Although we have a current problem to book appointments in Miami, but those applications, they were granted very, very fast. In this case, in the UK that you mentioned, the visa was approved after 8 days. So it's a record. The process has actually started on April 21st. So in less than 2 months, our client already had his visa.
That was what happened like 2 years ago.
Yes.
I'm going to say something. I don't know if you and Michelle and Victor are going to agree, but I would say it's less to do with the profile. Like, oh, this profile had this and this. It's more to do sometimes with the place. Miami right now, this is happening. UK right now, this is happening. But it's also kind of random.
It's more related to the workload. I would agree with this. Depending on the place, they have
workload of each.
Yes.
Council.
Yes.
But do you see this trend where it shifts from one state to another, where maybe you would see some, faster approvals in one state and then it shifts to another, or is this just completely random?
I think generally now they are granting the visa faster. Even in San Francisco, we had a case recently that the visa was granted in 40 days, I think.
Great.
So
that was also very nice.
Yeah, I think so. It's like becoming more common regardless the place, but of course there are some places that are faster than others.
I think maybe what had to do with the longer periods of time of wait, it was kind of a weird, we had presidential elections, there were a lot of things being voted on, and these things have finished. I'm just guessing here, okay? Maybe
I agree, it's a possibility. Yes.
Yeah, maybe that has to do why now they're actually getting things done faster. They were on pause for a little bit.
They were focusing on laws changing. Now that things are more solid, they can focus on the application.
Yeah, improve the systems.
Yeah.
Also.
So the wave of, just pausing and thinking about, let's just see where this goes, that sort of reached a closure. And now it's just about, either approving them or denying the applicants.
Yes.
So I guess that the so many people complain about the timing related to waiting for the visa. So it's well known that Portugal is a slow country overall. So to change this image, now that the political, we are more on a stable situation, it should be priority number one to make it work properly. So people are still willing to move to Portugal. There was a time where I could see maybe a trend, I don't really know, of people moving from Portugal to other countries, and mainly due to the bureaucracy. So waiting time was one of the reasons. So maybe Portugal wants to get better to continue attracting more expats.
Right. Victor, when you say when you say Portugal is a slow country, it's funny when we mention that because it's also one thing that people fall in love with when they want to move to Portugal. Portugal is a slow country.
Yeah, this is slow
It's a
pace.
happy sentence, but that also translates to everything else that they do, right? So if it bothers you in certain cases, but also that thing makes you really, really happy in others,
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing.
One piece of advice, I think you should be patient.
Yeah.
Like when you were in your home country, you didn't get all your documents in one day. It took time. You don't need to rush, right? Hurry.
Yeah.
You have to edit this part because I don't know if it's rush already or
Rush is
hurry.
completely, both are good.
Yeah.
Both are good. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't need to rush. You can enjoy the country. There are so many places to go. You don't need to travel to Spain, Italy in the first year that you are in Portugal. There are the islands.
Good
Yeah.
point. There's so much to see in this country.
Get to know the country better. Enjoy Portugal first. And then you're going to see like the first year will pass very, very fast.
Yeah.
There is a lot to see.
Yes.
I love this advice, Mateus. I know it's hard for people to stay here while they don't have all documents. They get anxious, and for a good reason. But if they try to have this peace of mind by traveling around inside the country, please, things will end up all right. You're on a good situation. You're legally here, so try to relax.
I think the magic word is accept. Accept that it may take long, and enjoy. Don't be anxious. You're not going to be kicked out of the country. You're legal. So it's like if you accept, okay, this is it, I just have to wait, it makes it easier instead of being very anxious about getting it very quickly, right? Yeah.
It also gives you an opportunity to just immerse yourself more into the culture and bond with the people around you.
Yes.
Funny that I give this advice, but on a weekly basis, I check my nationality process. And oh my God.
That's different.
That's true.
Yes.
I also check my partners every week. Every week.
I have to control my anxiety because it's still in the first stage of the process, and I've been waiting for 1 year and a half.
Same thing with my partners. It's in the first stage. It won't move. Oh my God.
It's okay, no problem. Let's wait.
Yeah.
It won't, and in fact, it won't change a lot in our life. It's just a document. It's just a passport. It won't change a lot. Our life is still the same. We are still able to work. We are still able to have a business. We are still able to travel around.
That's true.
It won't change a lot. The only difference is that you're gonna be able to vote for president.
Well, not the only difference. You can live and work anywhere in the EU.
Yes. No, I'm saying about the life in Portugal.
Sorry, but okay.
About your life in Portugal.
That's not going to change.
Because I like to think that if you choose Portugal, it's for one reason, is that in that you want to stay in the country, not using Portugal as a way to get access to other countries.
Sorry, that's not what I meant.
To get a passport. No, but I know that there are a lot of people that do it. Like they want to have a Portuguese passport just to be able to live in other countries. And I don't think it's a good thing to do. If you want to live in another country, apply for a visa in this other country.
I agree.
You don't need
100%.
to become a citizen.
Yes.
I agree. I think it's not respectful.
I think so. It's not.
Yeah.
Using a country as a gate to another one.
No.
And it hurts the system as well.
Yes, a lot, because there are actually people that need the citizenship.
Great discussion, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.